I think I hit a hedgehog with my car this morning. Right, I know this is another video about transgenderism and Laurel Hubbard, but the whole thing is still in the news. It's an important issue and it needs to be talked about. We should never be cowed talking about things like this. Otherwise, we have to take the narrative, we have to do as we are told, and we are not allowed to form our own opinions and produce them. Because if we submit to the people who are behind issues like transgenderism, anything else that's left-wing, right, it's been taken over by Marxists. It's Marxism that's taken this shit over. It's whatever it is, the entity that Yuri Besmanov has talked about in his videos, or when he was filmed on talk shows in the United States years ago, of course, the Soviet defector who spilled the beans about a military complex that is aiming to cause division. And it's causing conflict basically in the West. It's making the West weak and making the West ripe for a takeover. Takeover from whom? For what purpose? We don't know, but that's what's happening. And the lefties out there who are pandering to these and who are pushing this agenda, who are on social media, trying to deplatform others, are basically useful idiots. They have been seduced by socialism, even communism, a brutal rhetoric that has led to the downfall of countries and the pitiful suffering of human beings, and mass murders, war, and just misery, abject misery to the civilians, who have been placed under its brutal ideology by dictators who have made themselves rich. You know, communist countries, the only people who do well for themselves in these countries are the top tier, the top brass, the people at the top, the politicians. The people had to put up with this. They never do anything good for themselves. They don't really benefit from the whatever system it is that communism is meant to give to them, the peasants, the poor people, the plebs, the people on the benefit system, just people at the bottom of the pile, basically. And in order to get this system into a country, they seep their ideology into causes, things like transgenderism. Now, my view with transgenders is, if a transgender person came up to me and said, "Listen, Paz, I now identify as whatever. Do you mind addressing me as such? She, her, it, them," I'd be fine. If they're nice to me about it, I've got no problem whatsoever. You know, some people believe they were born into the wrong biological body, and I get that. I respect that. All right, there are transgender people out there who just want to change their gender and just live normal lives and leave people alone and get left alone and just contribute to society, be part of society, and that's it. These people aren't perverted paedophiles, as some extremists will call them, you know, but this is another cause that has been taken over and is now being used as a way of dividing people, dividing us. We, the people who are on the ground, the plebs, the taxpayers, etc. I mean, look how these people, and what I mean by these people are the people who have dipped their fingers into the transgender pie. Was that good? Well, I'm going to use that as an example. And then weaponize it, basically. It's not the decent transgender people out there who I've described earlier, just want to be normal parts of society, leave people alone, live their lives as they have an absolute right to have, a right to be. But they are being used, and their behaviour these people who have involved themselves in transgenderism issues are using it as a weapon, and their behaviour on social media is disgusting. It's proper extremist stuff. If you don't conform to what they say, what they're telling you, what they're dictating, then you are labelled as a transphobe. Look at what happened to J.K. Rowling, the guy who wrote Father Ted. Is it Graham Linden, him? And there are many others. There are people on there being cancelled left, right and centre simply because they don't conform. Now, like I said, transgenderism has been taken over by extremists, and extremists are selling conformity as unity. They're telling you to be united, but in fact it's just conform. You're conforming to their rhetoric, basically, that you do as you're told, you think like they do, you don't have any own think and have a think for yourself about biological issues, biological male, female, transgenderism. You have to go with the flow, and Laurel Hubbard's situation is no different. I hope I'm making sense here. But yeah, there we go. Laurel Hubbard's participation in the Olympics has been weaponised, and if you don't go along with the idea that a biological male can compete, can identify as a female, still have that biological male body, and compete fairly in women's weightlifting, then you are labelled something which they feel these people have a right to describe you with. Like you won't have a transphobic bone in your body, and you would just think to yourself, well, hang on, why is a man doing this? Why is a man allowed to believe he's a woman and then compete in a female sport? Okay, given this person, Laurel Hubbard, has failed and left the Olympics, didn't get a medal whatsoever, and people are calling this, well, the left-wing people and the people pushing this agenda are calling it a historic event. But in my opinion, the only thing that was truly historic about Laurel Hubbard's inclusion in the female weightlifting category at the Olympics is the biological females competing in the 2021 Tokyo Olympics and speaking out about it, not conforming, having their own opinions, not accepting the abnormality of the situation, having their sport and their gender and their pronouns hijacked and stolen and used against them, appropriated. Basically, their biological female sexuality, their gender, is being appropriated in order to make people feel better about themselves, in a way. Now, if you've often wondered to yourself lately what to say if someone says, well, my pronoun is this, that and the other, and they're not being nice, they're not being civil, they're not being decent, and you want to tell them to fuck off, but you can't. Otherwise you'd be seen as transphobic and you'd be called all sorts of names by these idiots who like to label people. So what do you say? And I've pondered this myself, and I found the perfect, elegant response by American weightlifter Sarah Robles. And this is what transpired.
It was a historic night here with Laurel Hubbard competing as the first openly transgender in a individual event. And I was wondering, what you felt about that and what you felt that it took place in your sport.
No, thank you.
So there we have it. That was a perfect, civilized, graceful response there by that female weightlifter. So the interviewer said, there was a historic night here with Laurel Hubbard competing as the first openly transgender in an individual event. I was wondering how you felt about that. So American weightlifter Sarah Robles said, no thank you. And that was it. And this was trending on Twitter. All right, and it was a graceful, noble, perfect response to people who don't know how to respond to the nasty side of those who are involving themselves in transgenderism and telling you, right, I am this, that and the other, you either address me as such or I will have your job, I will ruin your life, I'll call the police. And in today's society, on social media, you can't say, oh, fuck off, whatever. you can't say that anymore because they'll use that against you. You know, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You be labelled a transgender and they'll report you to your job and it's all over. So now you can just say, no thank you. And I was trending on Twitter and I was quite proud of that. I thought, yeah, fantastic. Finally, something decent trending on Twitter that didn't involve any extremism, and it was just a perfect response. Because I'm on the side of biological females on this issue. I really am. Because I believe that biological females have a right to privacy, dignity, and boundaries from males, and males have the absolute same right. Like I said earlier, there are transgender people out there who are decent, law-abiding people who keep to themselves, have their own lives, don't bother anyone else. They're not perverted, paedophilic, is that a word, paedophilic, perverts out to ruin lives and steal your kids. It's the extremist element who have infiltrated this issue, who are the problem. And there are people taking advantage. It's all over the news. You can Google it. I know Google isn't the fountain of all knowledge and information, but still you can see it online. There are male sex offenders in women's wards, it's transpired in the news. There are male rapists who are changing their gender, identifying as a female, and going to female prisons and committing sex acts against vulnerable women in female prisons. And they're allowed to do this because of political correctness. So when it comes to talking about males in women's sports, and every time you include a male-born person to a female team in sports, you exclude a female-born athlete from her own sport. That's what you're doing. You're appropriating something that you would have a distinct advantage in simply because of your biological makeup. So in conclusion, the only heroines in the Olympics this year, for me personally, are the 3 female American bodybuilders who decided to have a backbone and speak up against what is happening to them in their own sport and how it's been taken away from them. And when it comes to having pronouns shoved down your throat, otherwise you are being labelled as an extremist, just say no thank you. It's a perfectly civilised, graceful response. And you have a right to say it. Anyway, that's my video. Please let me know what you think in the comments. If you wish to support my channel, then you can buy me a beer. Links down below. Every penny you give to me, none of it goes to YouTube nor Google. That's the best bit. Right, that's me. I'm off. Please comment, share, subscribe. And until the next one, Roger Trout.